JMaths from GenerationD20.com, ready for round 3 of my M12 sealed pre-release. The video was recorded earlier. I was not able to do audio at that time. I'm still having some issues with my laptop, so this is actually being recorded on my Mac desktop through GarageBand. It's kind of a ridiculous thing. But anyway, opening hand looks solid. Going to be able to ramp into 4 mana by turn 3 and potentially 5 mana by turn 4. Well, potentially even more than that. Wow, that's a hell of a start. I'm going to have more mana than I know what to do with. I wonder if I'm better off casting the Monolith or the Rampant Growth, because I could attack in, and Rampant Growth comes into play when we tap, so it's useless for that turn. Monolith would be another. I can see that. Might as well take the plains, since it's the only one in the deck. Get in for 1. If I draw a land, I'm attacking with Rhinos next turn. If I don't, I'm not attacking with Rhinos, but I'm at least playing Rhinos. If I don't, I just Monolith and do it next turn. I'm still way ahead of my opponent at this point, who might not even have a 3rd land drop. It does seem he's waiting for something. Okay. So he does have another land drop. And out comes... Ooh, the Armored Warhorse. That has been pretty powerful from what I've seen. Just eats up a lot of those little guys. You see a lot more Coral Merfolk and a lot more Goblin Pikers because people are trying to, be aggressive and enable Bloodthirst any way they can, and that guy just eats them. Definitely what white wants, especially a white-blue deck, which is going to obviously take to the air shortly. And we may be taking to the air as well, especially if it's open skies. Although, at this point, it almost seems like get a Rhino and make him double up. We can always... It's better use of our mana. Not necessarily. I guess we could have cast that and a Sacred Wolf. But still, getting a 4/4 out there with Trample makes him play something else, or else we're able to attack in and he cannot kill our creature. And if that's the case, why not put out a second Rhino? And anytime you're playing against white and blue, you have the exact same concerns of what I have in my own deck, which is Pacifism, Oblivion Ring, Mind Control. So you're just kind of wondering when that's going to happen, or whether he's going to toss our guy back in our hand with Aether Adept, or, all the old tricks that you use. You kind of wait for them to come back and bite you in the butt. And he does have 2 blue now, so if he has a Mind Control or if he has an Aether Adept, it's definitely a possibility. But it looks like, unless he surprises us after combat, that he's not going to have enough force on the table to deal with our Rhino. So probably the Rhino's just going to get through. And then it becomes a question of how much do we want that rhino to get through for? Because, yeah, casting the automaton, we could name rhinos. He's dealing 5. And then we could potentially cast the Hunter's Insight and draw 5 cards, which, I mean, we already have a pretty stacked hand, but doing that could be truly insane. Let's hope he doesn't have Unsummon. That would be my big fear. Just thinking about it. Thinking it might not be a big fear, it might be a recollection of the past. Stave Off. Stave Off is a good card. It really is. It has so many diverse uses. And that right there is another one of them, but still get through for 4. If I hadn't done that, I maybe was casting, a Drake, which could be pretty good, flying through the air. But now he's at 5, 5. I have another one on his way, potentially, if I see fit. Interesting that he's attacking there. Oh, right, because he has the bounce. And if you have enough of those, I've been thinking about draft, and if I could draft, 3 Aether 8-ups, I mean, the 2 that I have in my sealed deck is crazy. If you have enough, you can just shut them down for turn after turn. The nice thing is at 3, you're at least getting a 2/2 plus potentially something else. And really, I think in general, I don't appreciate bounce as much as I should. If you have a little bit of card advantage and can get some draw so that you pick up an Unsummon and something else, you can do both of those on the same turn. You can make them waste their turn, and you can still get a lot of value out of what's there. Or if you have cards that can use the, like a Saproling Creator, even if you're bouncing them so they've spent their whole turn casting some big giant thing, and you're able to make 3 more 1/1 creatures or 2 more 1/1 creatures, that's still a profitable turn. Here, attacking in, guessing that he would block with everything, and he didn't. And so oh yeah, and that's when that backfired on me. My assumption was I would draw into a land, or my hope was I would draw into a land and still be able to play the Rhino. Instead, I end up, with powerful cards, but not getting exactly what I wanted. And on his turn, looks like he's had a little bit of a mana flood. The worst that I've ever seen, but that could account for where he's at in this game right now, and as opposed to where I'm at. Gets in, pings for another 1. The thing I hate about M12, same thing I hated about M11, is at any point if they drop a Titan, it can just sway the game completely. They're just, I mean, I think too powerful. Probably too powerful in standard, too. Okay. Well, now it's time to ponder. And that's a great ponder. Oblivion Ring, Merfolk Looter, Cudgel Troll. I think I end up using the Oblivion Ring on the pacifism. Which at this point I think is the right play, because the 5/5 Rhino is going to force him, if he blocks, to do a 2-for-1. And just looking at my hand, plus the cards that I just saw through the ponder, I know that I will be bringing the beats for a while. And also, Sacred Wolf, I'd be willing to trade that for any one of his creatures at this point. I want to get rid of his blockers and get my blockers through. And in all likelihood, if I was him, I probably would triple block the Rhino. And that, if I can remember correctly, I think is what he ends up doing. I mean, he doesn't know that I have another Rhino in hand. And, you know, from appearances, getting rid of the 5/5 Trampler is worth 2 of his creatures. Looks like, yeah, he's going for it. Nice thing about it also is I'm able to eliminate actually 4 of the 5 force with the way it breaks down. So he'll only have power. 4 of the 5 power. So he'll only have 1 power on the table, which means he has to get a pretty convincing threat to be able to do anything to my next Rhino. And with the 2 wolves, I mean, depending on what he plays, but at this point it's, I think, just attack in and, you know, trade something for something, but beyond that, I am ready to go. He's tapping a lot. Was the Scanning Sun? No. Pentibus, okay. This is actually a really annoying card. I don't think I had a slime or anything to get rid of the artifact. And at 5/5, it would trade with my Rhino, which is probably the move that I should have done. I put out that troll there, but if I had put out the Rhino, maybe I was just thinking that it would be effective with mana. But if I put out the Rhino and force him to trade, because if he, you know, blows up any of those tokens or whatever, and then it doesn't kill the Rhino, so he would be forced to use that entire Penibus every turn to stop my Rhino if he actually wants to avoid the damage. But instead I went with this, which, I mean, that's also, I put 7 force on the table instead of 5. He's gonna get in for a little bit of damage with his Griffin. If he chooses to attack, I'm not blocking that with Skywinder Drake. Although this might be an example of a point where a opponent does not attack and really could. Oh no, he's attacking with a token. knowing how it all works, I should have probably taken that trade. Because getting him down to a 4-4 would be relevant. Getting rid of as many of those +1/+1 counters as possible. But I didn't. And here, I made kind of a questionable play. First of all, why am I casting those before the attack? And then this would have been a point to consider attacking in a little bit heavier than that. I mean, you might just blow up the block and then blow him up. But making him do that probably is worth it. Right now I'm giving my opponent a little bit too much credit for his use of Penavus, which he may never have used before now. And anytime you're dealing with someone who's playing rares that they might not have used before, you can't assume that they really fully understand how to utilize them. So I would say that definitely is one mistake that I made, and something I need to think about in the future. There's always that fine line between overestimating and underestimating your opponent, and you have to be careful with it because, and of some relevance, I just traded a Drake for a token, so now he is down to the 4-4, which is kind of huge when you have a 5-5 trampler because it means you can get all the damage through. There's no way that he can trade for it. It just really put the power back in my hands. And he will get through for that, but it looks like, in full disclosure, I'm recording this on GarageBand and it has a tiny preview window, so I can't actually even see the life total of his right at this moment, which makes for, a little bit awkward commentary. But it looks like I have to be close to a point where I could just attack and win. And I definitely don't want to wait around for his army of tiny flyers to get through. So, yeah, I'm going all in, even the looter. And he's bringing in his little babies, and I'll probably send them back out. But here again, it's, does he just block and then pop them in? Well, that's fine and dandy for most of my creatures, but with that Rhino, if he sends them back in, I'm still getting trample damage through. And also important here is just the numbers game. I just have more out there, and he's going to have to block. I mean, the looter is probably safe, just like the Llanowar Elf, because he's going to have to block the beef. And right now he's probably doing the math. Always takes a little while to do all the math and make sure that the choice you're making is the correct one. Figuring out what the most beneficial block is, and that's why I love this game. It is not easy. And here I must have been checking to see if I was the last person playing, which I apparently wasn't, but I certainly feel like that at this point. This is a long round. We're approaching 20 minutes for those of you watching at home and who want a not so subtle reminder that you have spent a lot of your personal time watching me talk about a game which I already played days before, and I'm also spending a lot of my personal time talking about it. So if we were able to add up all of the man hours lost because of this game of Magic, it could explain why the economy is going down the crapper. Okay, he's at least to the point of blocking. Made some decisions there. I guess he could block the Rhino with the Assault Griffin, or not Assault Griffin, Griffin Sentinel. That would at least absorb. Okay, so he's going with the Penavus, and then he can sack him to absorb damage. So depending on how, I mean, it pretty much sets me up for the next turn, because if he sacks him, that is not good at all. Now, the nice thing is he'll only be able to bring back 2 of them. Right, so now he's down to a 3-3. And I have a aggressive bird. Wow. Turn to Frog really hosed me there. I'm surprised I didn't remember that, because I have absolutely no recollection of that card burning me. Oh, and he just quit. Didn't even force me to find out whether a win was possible. And with Aether out, although I couldn't cast it, Trollhide would have been pretty nasty, although still don't have Trample. So that was probably a game that he should have played to the bitter end, but sometimes it just doesn't seem that beneficial. Okay, and here I'm again doing the sideboard in black. Just gives me a different flavor to the game. Anytime I know that I'm going to be facing, I mean, in this case, white creatures, but anytime I know I'm going to get a lot of value out of those death marks, and also the ring fleshes, there were a lot of 1 toughness creatures, so I don't feel I lose a whole lot in that trade. It's just about how you're dealing with them. Like, Aether Adept is great if I'm bouncing a Gorehorn Minotaur who had Bloodlust. But if it's a Assault Griffin, I would rather be able to use Deathmark on it. So, and not to mention, it's always fun to just switch out and completely surprise your opponent. Ooh, that's a mulligan if there's ever been one, and that's very keepable. The elf can hopefully power me into the troll. Deathmark there as some removal against his best threats. And it never hurts to have a Gravedigger there, because, you know, the point of the game is to kill people. Well, to attack and damage a planeswalker or something. I don't even know what the point of the game is, but what I'm saying is he's going to kill some of my guys, I'm going to kill some of his guys. We always like to bring him back from the dead. And, ooh, we even got to the 4th land. So now, knowing that he's going to want that looter, might as well attack. Good for me. Attack in and see if he'll trade, which at this point he is unwilling to do. And then get a troll rolling. And that's a lot of force on the board early. especially with that death mark sitting there in case he does get to a white threat. I can just clear it, and then depending on where I'm at for what I draw, I probably could even attack with Llanowar Elf next turn also, because I'd be willing to trade it for a looter. Let's see if I do that. Am I that aggressive? Apparently not. Maybe I'm thinking maybe because he wasn't able to do something, he'll block this turn. Nobody blocks that. So I guess in the back of my mind I might have been thinking that I was going to be bringing back. I see. That I was going to be bringing back a wolf. We'll say that's what I must have been thinking. And there he didn't really understand that turned frog. I mean, it takes away regeneration, but if you turn on the shield before it's gone, it's still there. So what he thought was going to be a real neat combat trick ended up being nothing. Ended up being he loses a card and his looter, and that quite possibly might also be the game. I mean, sitting on 2 death marks with what will soon be 7, 8 power on the board, and he's sitting there with nothing. It just does not look good for him. But now it's a game where one card can turn it around, so we'll see. Here again, I don't attack with Llanowar Elf. I wonder what it is that I'm so scared of. It's definitely imperfect. So death mark for the win. And that's a place where I did the perfect sideboard. And that's how we win that round. Alright, I'll see you for round 4. 3-0. This might be the time that I actually win.